Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Surrey Decides Question Time 2022. Please welcome to the stage your union president, AJ Ajimobi.
This ain't right, it's no good, no good, oh. Everything is changing, and I've been here for too long, going through the same things.
Hello, everyone. Ooh, let's wait. Good evening, everyone. We're good to go? Let's test it one more time. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Question Time. I'm AJ, your Students' Union President. So essentially, Question Time is a crucial opportunity for everyone to be informed about who's running for a position as you get to elect who represents you next year. And even though that there's been a pandemic, we're really happy to bring Question Time and Surrey Decides back to Rubik's again. And despite the challenges this year, we've had loads of students really involved in clubs and society. We've had the biggest freshers fair ever. And we've also had just a great year in general in terms of union activities. So you guys get to determine who will be your next union representatives. And over the 3 days, this is why the debates are so important, because you get to hear from the candidates that are running, why they're running, their mandates, and it's also a really great opportunity for you to be informed and make an informed decision. So do make sure you vote. Voting's currently not open, but voting is really important because it's your opportunity to decide what the union does and influence the union's decision. So you're going to see a series of candidates coming up today. Please do show them some support, because Question Time can be very nerve-wracking, because even though I'm not running, I'm still feeling a little bit nervous up here. And also massive thank you to the students who put themselves forward to chair the debate, because they are volunteers. So without further ado, we're going to bring through the next candidates. I'm AJ, Students' Union President.
Please welcome to the stage your chair for the Support Zone debate, Ren Heason.
And we'll never be afraid again. Save my life. Every day, we are shining.
Oh my God. Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Surrey Decides 2022. How is everyone tonight, guys? So I'm Ren. I am going to be chairing the Support Zone debate tonight, and I'm so excited to be opening the first night of Question Time. It's so exciting to be on this side of the table this time. So before we get started, we have a couple of announcements. So this evening, most of our candidates will be appearing on stage in person and some online, and we will be taking questions live from the audience, and you can also ask questions on Twitter using the hashtag #SurreyDecides. Please remember that any form of hate speech will not be tolerated and will be reported to the university. Let's make sure we are supporting all of the candidates here today. As we're about to start the democratic process, we want to say thank you to all of our candidates who have put themselves forward, to all our student chairs for all of their commitment to the elections, and to our university partners who are giving their feedback as pundits on the live stream, and to our stage crew and Stag TV team for all of their hard work. With that said, let's get started and welcome everyone onto the stage as your Support Zone candidates for next year.
Please welcome to the stage your candidates for the Support Zone.
Suddenly the sun goes up, and I feel my love flooding back again. Until the sun goes up, and I feel my love.
All right, is everyone ready? How's everyone feeling? All good? Cool. So to start, we will start with the preset question that you have all been sent today. So starting with Letty, can you please give us a 30-second introduction of yourself and why you are running this year?
Hi, my name is Leslie and I'm a first year mechanical engineering student. I'm running for Support Zone because I believe university should be fun, safe and accessible for everyone, and I want to be part of making that happen.
Thank you so much, Letty. Next, if I can get to Numa. Numa, can you hear us all right from where you are? And can you give us a 30-second introduction of yourself and why you were running?
We can't hear the audio, so
Okay, since we're having technical issues,
I will move on then to Heather. Can you give us a quick introduction of yourself and why you're running, please?
Okay, so I'm Heather. I'm a second-year psychology student, and I'm currently one of the service coordinators for our support service Nightline, and I'm also one of the wellbeing champions for Psychology Society. Support is one of my core values, and it's something I want to take into my career as hopefully a clinical psychologist. I want to be a voice for people like me, and also advocate for others to be heard as well. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Heather. Next, I want to get Sam to introduce herself and why you are running.
Hi, my name's Sam and I'm a final year student studying French and Spanish, and I'll be staying next year for my Masters. I've been actively involved within the student life during my undergrad, and I'm currently the lead publicity officer for Nightline. I'm running for the support zone as I've experienced and seen the fantastic work of the current zone. I would love the opportunity to get further involved and help students on a bigger scale to feel welcome and supported within the Surrey community.
Thank you so much, Sam. Can I please check if Numa or Vanessa can hear us better?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Numa, would you be able to give an introduction of yourself and why you're running?
Hi, I'm Nima. I study biochemistry. I can hear my own audio. Sadly. It's really distracting.
All right, we will try to get that sorted again. So while waiting for Numa, can we get to Maui, please?
Hi, I'm Maui. I'm a second-year aerospace engineering student. I'm running for this role because currently I'm a wellbeing champion for MEXLOC. I enjoy this role so much, and I want to carry on doing something really similar, but I want to spread my impact further. I believe there's so many things I can do to support students achieve their absolute best. I believe Support Zone has done such an amazing job this year, and I would love to carry on their legacy. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maui. And now can I get Liam to please give an introduction?
Hi, I'm Liam, and I'm a psychology student currently on placement. Since my time at uni, I've been a part in many support and volunteering opportunities both inside and outside university, including the Support Zone. And the reason I'm back here again this year is because I'm not done. I've had the privilege to listen to so many students, and I want to be able to put in the work to make sure that everyone gets the support that they need. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Liam. Can I double check again if Numa and Vanessa, can you hear us well?
I can hear you.
All right. Let's try and see if Vanessa can give an introduction first, and then we'll move on to Numa afterwards.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Vanessa, and I'm a PGR. Currently in the tourism and events department. I'm looking at accessibility for deaf people for my research, and this opportunity to run for the Students' Union is about, the reason I want to do it is to network with other students and staff, and also to help make Surrey University more accessible for students, whether they have a disability or not. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. And last but not the least, Numa, can you give us a quick introduction of yourself?
Okay, I'm going to mute myself whilst I speak, and then I'll unmute myself. So, hi, I'm Nima. I study biochemistry. I'm currently a Support Zone part-time officer, and I've made great strides in the union this year. Last year, I was ArtsLock president as well as course rep, so I have a variety of experience in different student-led roles. My main values are that I really want support services to embody equality, diversity, and inclusion, ensuring our support services are accessible to every type of student, as well as closing the cultural gap that exists within mental health. I also want to integrate support within the academic sphere, so academic needs are equivalent to wellbeing needs. And all in all, I just want to create a campus that truly values your mental health.
Thank you so much, everyone, for giving such an amazing introduction. So my first question for the night is directed to Letty. So you have a point about the extenuating circumstances for neurodivergent students. So the process for someone with long-term health conditions, which includes access arrangements for neurodiverse students, means that students can already access the extenuating circumstances process easily, and they do not need to provide new evidence each time. So how does your manifesto differ from what is already in place?
So as a student who has accessed the EC process, I know that it's not as simple as it might appear to be. I think that if someone has extenuating circumstances that are caused by a teacher or a lecturer not providing enough support, that the burden should be on that lecturer to give the student the ECs that they deserve.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Letty. Great. So my next question is for Heather. So you have a point on neurodivergence and mainly to do with raising awareness and on the access to services and resources from the university. My question is, what specific issues do you find that students are currently experiencing with access to university resources and services on neurodivergence that you think needs to be addressed?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think, and I've seen a lot of students not feel deserving of help, and I think that's a really big issue because treatment isn't something that's to be fair, and neither is support. It's something you deserve if you are struggling. And I think to raise awareness around this, we need to host more events, but also reduce the gap between staff and students. A lot of students aren't aware of how to access resources, and having access to university services myself, I know how much they can help. So I want to not only empower students to take control of their own support and their own well-being, but I also want to provide greater information and make it more accessible on how to get in touch with these services and get what you need from them.
Thank you so much, Heather. What a great answer. So let's move on now to Vanessa. I hope you can hear us well. So you have a point about PGR engagement. For those that don't know what PGR is, it's postgraduate research students. So PGR students have historically been difficult to engage with in the past. So how are you going to make this a priority if you get elected?
Well, I'm a PGR myself. So I do have a network of other PGRs, and I just feel that as a PGR, and particularly the year that I joined, we were in the full lockdown. So we haven't had that opportunity to be on campus and mix with people as much as maybe other years have. And I know that that is campus-wide. So I appreciate that. It's been difficult. However, people that are on the PGR are generally working from home in isolation. So I want to ask PGRs from the network I have and from just, for them to then disseminate down to other PGRs, what kind of activities, what kind of engagement do they need? Because I can't make assumptions on their behalf. It needs to come from them. So I will be opening a dialogue.
Great. Thank you so much, Vanessa, for that amazing answer. Moving on, my next question is for Liam. So I don't actually have a specific question in your manifesto, but it's more of an overarching question. Many of the proposals in your manifesto, such as the active listening training, first aid training, inclusive holiday events, and meetings with underrepresented groups, are already being done by either the Students' Union or the university. So what is something new that you're offering to enhance these?
So could you repeat the last part of that question?
So I was just mentioning how these events and trainings are already being done either by the Students' Union or the university. So what is something new that you're offering to enhance these?
It's a good question. And some of these initiatives, specifically I'll point to active listening and the outreach events in periods of isolation, are things that have very much been piloted this year. And for me, the natural extension of it is building it up. It's good that we put our feelers out to try these things. And in regards to inclusivity, for example, we're holding forums and such. But it's about, and this is specifically something I wanted to do by reaching out to societies and such, it's about learning, getting feedback on the things we've done, whether they've been successful. And the natural expansion for things like training is have larger numbers. Maybe we can boost publicity to get more people involved if people are finding it positive. So an expansion of numbers and expansion of engagement are the two logical progressions in my mind.
Thank you so much, Liam, for a great answer. Now my next question is for Maui. So my specific question is about your Connect With Me buddy system. On your proposal for this buddy system, I'm wondering how will the pairing system work so that students are matched appropriately, and who will be monitoring the system so it isn't used inappropriately?
I think students will be monitoring this. So myself and hopefully the other student zone members as well. And the system will be working as students will be able to choose their preferences. So if they would like a specific someone, a specific gender, a specific age, and so it's entirely up to them. So they get the best results out of what they want. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Maui. Moving on, my next question is for Numa, if you can hear me properly. So I have a question with regards to your proposed mood tracker app. So a mood tracker app has already been discussed at length with the university this year and last year, but funding has been an issue. Where should we get the funding for this app, and why would this work over other mood tracker apps?
So I didn't realize that the university has projects for a mood tracker app. Funding is something that you'd have to discuss with higher management within the union, as well as the university itself. I really believe that we should value mental health equally to physical health, since we have an app developed for Surrey Moves, which is tracking steps and rewarding points and incorporated challenges in that. I feel like we could easily create an app similar to that called Surrey Mood. We can integrate so many resources provided by the Centre of Wellbeing, or allow for society collaborations to create recordings such as like meditation recordings, or like yoga recordings, or podcasts, for instance. And yeah, I think it's really important just to promote the values of positive wellbeing for students.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Numa. And great. My last question is for Sam. So my question is regarding your proposal for having more lighting around Guildford. The union have already managed to turn on several lights around Guildford and the populated areas so that we can make the town safer as part of its women's safety campaign. So where else needs to be lit up?
So yeah, current officers have really done well this year to push to have more streetlights turned on, and they have really made a difference. For example, when I'm going home through Southway, it feels so much safer to get home. However, there are still too many student-populated areas that don't have a light on. My current road doesn't, although the journey mostly does. And I think there's around 16 places that still don't. So I just want to work with the new officers to keep pushing and talking to the local council to ensure that more are turned on.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you everyone for your stellar answers. Now, I have a general question that I'd appreciate everyone's answers to. So my question is, women's safety is the priority campaign this year. And many of you have focused on campus safety as a priority manifesto. So what one thing should be the biggest priority that the university needs to focus on to keep students safe? I will start with Letty, if that's all right.
I think a lot of awareness around what is sexual assault and harassment is really important. I think that especially in Rubik's, we currently have a lot of posters about spiking that focus mainly on what a victim can do to prevent themselves being spiked, and I think we need to focus more on perpetrators and people standing up against that behaviour. I think as a community we need to work together when we see bad behaviour happening, and I think that's going to help make the community safer.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Letty. I want to move on to Numa for this question, please.
I also agree that a huge aspect of feeling safe at university is awareness and having that comfort to open up about dialogues to do with sexual harassment or personal safety. I think that the union should keep campaigning to improve services like support and report and events that we hold, so that the conversation about personal safety carries on.
Thank you, Numa. Next, can Sam please answer my question?
So I'd say getting students home safely, and I know a lot of people have put on their manifestos either to do with getting people home from societies like I have and pushing for VP Activities' idea of the walking groups, but then also I know other people have mentioned initiatives after Welfare Watch, keeping people safe or anything like that.
Thank you so much, Sam. Can I please get Vanessa to answer the question?
Oh, hello, thank you. Yeah, I think it's around education and educating males on what women do. And I think it's been interesting. Obviously, this has been a hot topic in the press up until very recently. And I think a lot of men don't realise what it's like to be a woman. If they go out as a group of men, they go home, they say goodbye, and they like to see each other another time. Where if a group of women go out, you go home and you're texting each other, are you safe? Are you okay? Are you indoors? And all that worry. And I don't think men realise how vulnerable women are. So I think it's around a lot more education.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. Liam, can you please answer this question?
Yeah. So a few people brought up a good point about education, and I think this year the union have done great strides in working with education. With the consent course being put on the STARS programme, I think was a massive leap. But I'm actually going to echo what Numa mentioned earlier about report and support, because I feel strongly about that. I think that a part of feeling safe is a feeling that a confidence in a system, knowing that if something happens, you're able to get justice for it. And a part of my manifesto is looking on making sure people know what exactly report and support is and how to utilise it so that they have the maximal support and that they can feel as safe as they can.
Thanks, Liam. Please, can I get to Heather to answer this question for us?
Thank you. I think this is a really, really important issue, and it's quite close to my heart because I've had a friend who's been scared to return to clubs after an event against her was handled poorly. And I think there is so much we could do to improve, but it's also important to recognise the steps the student union has taken so far. I think to improve things further, there should kind of be more support from security. I've heard some students feel that they are slightly put on the spot and feel a bit vulnerable speaking to security. So if there's potentially more working with them to provide support to students and potentially take them out of the situation and provide maybe a support packet with the number to Nightline, and pulling over Welfare Watch and providing support and also follow-up care to these students is essential, because this isn't just a night times event. This can impact students for a long, long time, and it can be traumatic. So it's not just support on the night, it is prolonged support and consistent support.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Heather. And lastly, Maui, can I please get you to answer this question?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Heather. One of the ways I would do this is increasing volunteers and the consistency of volunteers for Welfare Watch. Having these people at regular nighttime events like helps people know that they're here. So if they cannot approach bouncers or guards, they can approach students, and they'll be more like comfortable talking about this, and hence they will help like reporting it and help the union like take effect on this, and hence like deterring future people from doing this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everyone for your amazing answers. We actually have time for one more question each. So there's another general question that I would like to ask you. Very easy question. Which of your manifesto points do you think would have the biggest impact on student satisfaction with the union? Can I please start with Letty for this one?
I think student safety affects everyone, and so I think that's the most important point of my manifesto. I want all students to feel safe around campus, going between societies and to classes. I don't think safety should be on anyone's mind when they're thinking about what they're going to do that day. And I'd really like to help make that happen.
Thank you so much, Letty. So I'm going to go in a reverse order. So Maui, can I please get you to answer this question for us?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. So which of your manifesto points do you think would have the biggest impact on student satisfaction with the union?
I feel like the one affecting the international students, I feel like this hasn't been on much, and I really want to make them feel included, because I can't imagine being in this position, but like moving into a different country, to a whole different environment, even a whole different language barrier. It can be absolutely scary, and I want to like put in schemes that can actually help them, because I personally haven't been seeing much around them, and for them to feel comfortable and feel less alone would be a major priority, and I think this can affect better our student satisfaction.
Thank you so much, Maui. Heather, please, can I get you to answer this question for us?
Okay, so I think one of my manifesto points that is going to potentially induce student satisfaction the most, and also kind of the one I'm most excited to implement, is definitely the You're Not Alone campaign. I already started this on my manifesto page, and I've had a lot of positive feedback. I've made friends through it, I've made connections, and I've had a lot of people open up to me about their stories. If we can run this university-wide and have people share and not feel like it's this them versus us society, because it does feel like that within the community. It's very them versus us. If we can reduce that so that people can find a role model or a friend who they feel represents them and their voice, I feel like that would definitely increase student satisfaction.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Heather. Next, I would like Liam, please, to answer this question for us.
Yeah. I feel personally that satisfaction comes into play. It's about being heard somewhat. And for me, the point that I think addresses that is about making a step to have outreach to underrepresented groups. One of the stats that I saw in the Pulse survey, which I really didn't like, 44% of postgraduate research students aren't satisfied that the union give them more support. The point of my outreach point in my manifesto is to actually hear their voices directly. And I feel that if all these different groups feel that they are being proportionally listened to, that what they have to say actually matters, that will make them feel a lot more satisfied with the university and the union.
Great, thank you so much, Liam. Next, please, Vanessa, could you please answer the question for us?
I don't want to copy Liam, but actually, I mean, I did read the stats as well about the PGRs being one of the most unsatisfied groups when you did a Pulse questionnaire. So it's not just PGRs, but it's about everyone. If I'm elected, it's about having an open door policy that anyone can contact me at any time, and I will listen to their views and act on them as much as I possibly can. But I just want people to feel listened to.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vanessa. Moving on, please, can I get Sam to answer the question?
So I think student safety should always be a priority, but since we've already mentioned it, I will say about the art and mindfulness initiatives on campus, as I'm a big advocate for these, and I've noticed that they do make a difference to people's overall mood and day-to-day life. They're just something fun to do, and it's a great way to meet new people.
Thank you so much, Sam. And last but not least, Numa, can you please tell us what is your most impactful manifesto point?
So, in student pulse surveys, one of the main priority concerns that have consistently come up is value of education. I really want to ensure there's support systems within an academic context. We should integrate the support services we have into the EC systems, because that can often be a progressive pattern when students apply for ECs. They can go into assessment-only years, or they can defer or even drop out. So ensuring that academia and well-being, which are really linked to each other, our services should also reflect that. So I think this is one of my bigger, larger points, because it's kind of connects the voice zone with support zone, as well as working with the university with changing their academic systems of processing ECs.
Great. Thank you so much, Numa. And thank you so much, everyone, for such great answers. You all did fabulously tonight, and I wish you the best in your campaign. Can we please get another round of applause for our support zone candidates tonight? That's all the time we have for our support zonies today. After a short break, please join us back for the VP support debates.
Please welcome to the stage your chair for the VP support debate, Michelle Ching.
I know you can't get enough of my sound. There's no place to hide, so stop the fight, I'm gonna get it. All this running from me, baby, you're gonna regret it. I can understand why you can't free yourself and let it go.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. I am so excited to see so many of you here tonight. Are you all having a good time? Yeah? So, my name is Michelle. I'm currently the Voice Zone exec. I did not have the pleasure of being in Surrey Decides in person last year, unfortunately, but I'm definitely excited to be here. I've come all the way down from Milton Keynes to be here today. So, without further ado, please welcome your VP support candidates.
Please welcome to the stage your candidates for VP support.
Oh, I want something just like this. I want something just like this.
Wonderful. So please note that there is a third valid candidate in this election who is not able to be here tonight. Their name is Gayatri, and they will be on the ballot when voting opens. So please make sure to check out their manifesto online. So first of all, could you please introduce yourself and explain why you are running for VP support? Do you mind going first?
Hello, I'm Mariana. I'm a fourth-year law student, and I am running for VP support because for the past 3 years, I've been involved in the support services, and it's been the best times of my life. I've learned so many things. I've made so many new friends, and I'm not done yet, and I feel like I can do so much more from the position of VP support.
Thank you. Wonderful. And Tudor, the same question to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Tudor. I'm finally a computer science student. I went abroad in my second year, did a placement in my third, and I've done as much volunteering as I can this year. I'm super passionate about support services, students supporting students. I'm a supervisor with Welfare Watch and on the committee, and I am super excited to hopefully have the chance to help represent you in support services next year.
Thank you. All right, so we're going to dive right into the manifesto questions. So both of you mentioned increased support available to welfare champions. Currently, welfare champions already have a full day of training provided to them in order to fulfill their role. The training takes away 6 members of staff, and it takes significant time to plan. What do you think is missing from the training, and where do you think the additional resource to support the additional training will come from? Tudor, do you mind going first?
My point with Wellbeing Champions is not necessarily adding more training, it's changing the emphasis of what a Wellbeing Champion is. Currently, it's a fairly passive role in most clubs and societies, in my experience, where students are encouraged to reach out if they need help. I would like to switch this around so that it becomes an active role where Wellbeing Champions are running events and reaching out to students. I also think they can be an excellent buddy system. Joining a new club or society can be very daunting, and having someone to reach out to, someone to grab a coffee with, could be an excellent way of making sure people feel able to join a new society.
Fantastic, thank you. And Oriana, the same question to you as well.
So again, yeah, I agree with the training. It's not necessarily about adding training, but I think I saw the other end of the Wellbeing Champions as the one Tudor talks about, because I've seen the overwhelmed ones, the Wellbeing Champions that get so many calls, so many messages, and sometimes from the same people, sometimes from new people. And if it's not a safeguarding issue, then you don't go to report and support, and you don't go to the support manager. You might not have any help with it, because if it's someone that's coming to you constantly with relationship problems or academic problems, then you won't have someone to report that to because it's not a safeguarding issue. So I feel like the Wellbeing Champions having constant access to the materials of the training, just to refresh their memory on what safeguarding issues are, and then having someone that they can talk to about these these issues when they are not safeguarding ones. So the VP support and the VP activity are wellbeing champion parents, and just making that a bit more known and a bit more available to the wellbeing champions, and for the ones that aren't currently being used to the best of their abilities and it's just a passive role, getting them more involved in societies, encouraging societies to include them in meetings, in decision makings, at their sessions, you know, having a shout out like, this is our wellbeing champion, posting them on social media. If you need anything, just go to them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We're just going to take a quick pause from the debate while we fix a technical problem. Welcome back. Sorry for that little interruption there, but we're just going to pick up exactly where we left off, which is with our manifesto questions for our two VP support candidates. So my next question is for Tudor. You said that you would like to build a culture of students supporting students, but is this not exactly what the SU currently is?
It certainly is. It's definitely something that is already part of the university culture, but it can be boosted far further. I think society is moving away from a negative stigma around mental health and more towards something positive, but it needs to be built in from the ground up, and university is the perfect place to do that. I think students want to support each other. They don't necessarily know how, they don't know where to look, and so training and giving them the resources and the infrastructure to be able to do that is absolutely key and is almost the basis for my manifesto, making sure that students are able to support each other and not just saying, go and support your friends, is super key to me.
Wonderful. Thank you. So my next question is for you, Oriana. Meet a Mate was launched last year in response to student loneliness, but has had very limited uptake. Is making a new platform for accommodation more important over improving the current Meet a Mate provision?
So it's not a new platform, it is Meet a Mate, but it's just changing the target of it. The current target is to combat COVID-19 loneliness. And with restrictions being lifted, I just thought it's such a great idea. Why not expand it to loneliness instead of COVID-19 loneliness? So people can then just we will add to the current questions that exist, and I've checked with student union staff that this can be done, for students to include where they live, if they want to, and what kind of socializing they want. So do you want to meet one friend, or would you like to meet someone so that you can have someone to fall back on when you go to the kitchen prees? So if we expand Meet a Mate to do that, then we can include everyone that's at accommodation, but focus it specifically at first years, so that, you know, when you're in first year, if you don't immediately join the kitchen preset, it can feel very intimidating when you do that 2 weeks later. If we get first years to join, make one friend, and then even if they don't want to join the kitchen, they can have that one friend throughout the year, and it makes it easier to find who to live with for the next year. So it's not a new platform, it's the same scheme, just rebranding.
Thank you. Okay, so my next question is to both of you. It's going to first just be a yes-no question, then we'll dive a little bit deeper. Should the consent course be compulsory for all students? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, we've got full agreement. So as you both agree that the consent course should be compulsory for all students, how will you ensure the safety of students who have been victim survivors, for example, making sure they're not re-traumatized by the consent course? And how do you plan to make the course compulsory for all students, and what's the consequence if students don't do this? Tutor, would you like to go first?
Go first. Yeah. So this is on my manifesto of improving consent education and increasing its engagement. So I think the current issue with making it mandatory is that the university is hesitant to place consequences on doing this, on not completing the course. But St Andrews have included this as part of their registration process without consequences, and there's a huge uptake in the course. I don't know that consequences would be possible for not doing it, but if you just make it part of the registration process, it seems to work with St Andrews. I don't see why it can't work for us. In terms of, sorry, what was the first part of the question?
How will you ensure the safety of students who have been victims or survivors, to make sure they're not going to be re-traumatized by the consent course?
I think that could be some sort of extenuating circumstances for the consent course, that they don't necessarily have to do it. It's certainly not you absolutely have to do it. If there is a valid reason for you not having to, that's perfectly reasonable, I think.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Oriana, the same question to you. Would you like me to repeat it again?
No, that's fine. So my manifesto point is about launching the sexual health course after the contract for the consent course expires. So I will be looking at making the consent course compulsory, but it will expire halfway through my SAP year, so in March 2023, and then I will be looking at launching a new one, which will incorporate consent, but there will be so much more to it rather than just consent, about myth busting around HIV, STIs, pregnancy, toxic shock syndrome. There will be so much more to it. About specifically the consent course up until it expires, I think, I will agree that the problem with making it compulsory is what kind of consequences will there be to not doing it. I don't know about anyone else, but during the summer there was that technology for spam emails compulsory course that you had to take, and I was getting an email every day until I did it. And I think just pushing people to do it. We'll get them to do it even if they don't want to. And then for the people that are really against it, then we can just have conversations around it. I don't think anyone necessarily is very adamant on not doing it for like very specific reasons. So if there's something, like Shira said, if there's a reason like maybe someone who's experienced sexual violence before doesn't really want to do the course, or it triggers them for other reasons, then we can have conversations around that. But yeah, it's, I think the technology thing was compulsory. I didn't get an email that I'll get kicked out if I don't do it, but it's getting an email about it every day just made me do it.
Thank you. All right, so I'm going to go back to a couple manifesto questions. So Tudor, you mentioned that you wanted to introduce a support group for students who have been affected by sexual violence. Have you considered who might be best to run these groups and how you're going to make these groups a safe space?
So as it stands, we have support groups for bereavement. There's one recently been introduced for eating disorders. So we certainly have the precedent to do it. We can look to existing support groups that are done elsewhere, not through the university, to see how they do it. It's possible that we could do it with student volunteers, like Student Minds. It could also be a staff thing or maybe a SAB thing. It would need to be looked into to see who's most suitable. In terms of making it a safe space, again, looking at how other organisations have done it, and at how the eating disorder group, for example, is made a safe space. I think through adequate training, through making sure that the people running it are the right people for the job, it's certainly feasible.
Wonderful, thank you. And Oriana, my next question for you is that you would like to launch a page called Surrey Cares. What would this look like, and what would the goal of this site be?
So I have been involved in Nightline for the past 3 years, Student Minds and Welfare Watch, and I have seen them not being used, and I have seen them being used to the best of their abilities. So that page will be an opportunity to bring awareness to them. So there was the poll survey last year that found that there was 17% of students that didn't know what Nightline was. And when I was on the Student Minds and Nightline stands at the Refreshers Fair, there were people that thought that Nightline was only for times of crisis. So that page will bring awareness to that. And then on top of how Students' Union can help students, there will be another part of the page on how the students can help themselves. So mindfulness and yoga and self-care tips, self-soothing. So like I know I quite often have asthma attacks, which then bring on panic attacks. And I had to kind of find ways for myself to self-soothe. And those kind of things are really crucial because at that time, you don't really have anyone else to help you. So that will be the point of the page is awareness to how the Students' Union can help you. And then how can you help yourself in the meantime is not really instead of the Students' Union support, is kind of in addition to it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Wonderful. So as you can all probably tell, I've had my fun preparing some questions for tonight. But we just actually wanted to ask if there are any questions from anyone here on the floor. If you'd like to raise your hand and we can get a mic to you. If you've got any questions for our two candidates here today. It can be about their manifesto, their priorities, if they were to be elected. We'd love to hear from you. Yeah, I think Dan over there. Oh. God. Thank you. Oriana, could you go first, please?
Yeah. So.
Sorry?
Hello. So one more time in the mic. Women's safety is one of our priority campaigns at Surrey this year. I just wanted to ask the candidates what measures they're trying to implement to work on women's safety at Surrey.
Thank you. Oriana, would you mind going first?
Yeah. So I will be looking into, like the Zoni said earlier, on getting more lights on in the streets. I don't think people recognize how big a problem it is at areas. I have to walk 35 minutes to get home, and past the 15-minute mark, it's always dark and there's no light, just my phone. So getting more lights on. Also, women's safety is a really big issue for me. And I want to have more conversations around it. So I'm looking at making support-related events into Manor Park and Kate Granger and Hazel Farm, and including conversations around women's safety for those events. Because while I've been campaigning, I've gone to Hazel Farm and Manor Park a couple of times, and they didn't know that that was the campaign, that our focus was women's safety. And talking about it with people that lived on those campuses or visit them for other reasons just made me realize that we just have to push it a little bit more, have more conversations around it, use our social media, use maybe the sabbaticals office's social media, and us going around and having conversations around that subject, I think would be really important. And then, yeah, the lights, it's really terrifying walking when it's really dark. I think they turn them off after like 9.
Thank you. And Tudor, the same question to you. Do you need me to repeat it again?
No, I'm okay, thank you. Student safety generally is a huge part of my manifesto. I think the women's safety campaign has been awesome and has helped with a bunch of stuff. But I think it can be improved further. I know that for No More Week, free personal alarms are being given away, so that's a good trial of one of the points on my manifesto. I think there have been 500 ordered for No More Week, but we can look at whether that works, whether people actually engage with it, and what sort. I know there are different types of alarms, people have different preferences, so what would be best there? I think the consent course, which we've already talked about, is a key part of that. And then finally, the Walk Together scheme. I know a bunch of different people have that on their manifestos, so I'd love to work with them on implementing that. And there are a multitude of different ways we could go about that. So I know Strut Safe in Edinburgh have a really good system there with pairs of volunteers walking people home. Obviously, being on the Welfare Watch Committee, I know how hard it is to get student volunteers, so that might not be the way to go. Instead, I could work with the VP activity to make sure that clubs and societies are running schemes to help people walk home. So ultimately, safety is a huge part of my manifesto for women, for all students generally, and I would love to work with the Zonies on that.
Thank you. Wonderful. So now I have a slightly different question, which is actually around our student pulse survey. I think we might have some technical difficulties once again. And we are back. So sorry once again for the slight technical issue. But our two candidates are still here, haven't scared them off yet, although I do have a pulse question now. So according to our pulse survey, 53% of students would reach out to the SU for advice, but 70 believe that the SU gives good advice. Considering this disconnect, how do you plan to improve these statistics? Oriana, are you happy to go first?
Yeah. So one of the three main focuses of my manifesto are increasing awareness. So getting the wellbeing champions to put the word out about what the Students' Union can offer, but the support that the Students' Union has available. Expanding the events to the other three campuses to include the students that don't necessarily know what the Students' Union is. Because I've met so many students this year that I said, oh yeah, I'm going to be running for vice president support I'm campaigning. And they were like, what is that? So getting the word out there about what really the Students' Union is, what the sabbatical officers are. And one of my manifesto points is about getting staff to include the Nightline number with their email signatures. I know the current VP support is trying to get them to put them in their away emails. So putting that in their email signatures, just kind of constantly not pushing it on them, but kind of constantly reminding them of the fact that the Students' Union is here to be the voice for the students and to offer them support.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Wonderful. And the same question to you, Tutor?
Yeah, so I think in terms of building a culture of students supporting students, a key part of that is learning how and where to signpost other students to go. So as more students know how to help their friends, they also know how to help themselves. So they will be aware of the services that are available and aware that they are able to reach out no matter what they're going through, how bad they think it might be. The union is there for them. Also, I know Larry's created the welfare this year, so I'd love to carry that on, make sure that carries on running, so that students are aware of what support is available and that it is okay to reach out for that support.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, and now back to both of your manifestos. So, Oriana, you mentioned that you want to introduce support for addiction. What types of addiction do you wish to support, and how are you going to ensure a safe, supportive, and appropriate environment for our students?
So the kind of support, the kind of addiction that we would be looking at is drugs and alcohol, because it's the addictions that mostly concern students. The current support that is available is basically the Centre for Wellbeing can offer sessions, and then you're referred to an outside organisation. If you look through the drug policy, students that are kind of found using class B or C drugs can be fined and then sent to do a session with a nurse called a session called Cubic. I can't see how being lectured for an hour from a nurse or being having a financial restraint put on you with £100 fine is going to help at all. So introducing support, what I mean by it is working with organizations to either do off-campus student-tailored support or bring it on campus, either again with working with organizations like the Catalyst, Catch-22, or bringing an addiction specialist on campus. So this is not going to be really student-led. This is going to be more of a professional setting. But when we're working with those organizations, we can have student volunteers. When and if I am the VP support, I will then have to look through how things are currently being dealt with addiction even more closely and figure out what the best way to do this for students is.
Thank you so much. All right, and for Tutor, you mentioned in your manifesto a point about financial literacy. Who would create the content for the financial literacy course, and how would you encourage students to engage with it?
Yeah, so this point has actually been the one that everyone who I've spoken to while I've been campaigning has been most excited about, which surprised me because it's something that seems fairly minor compared to, the big priority campaign of women's safety, but everyone's really excited about financial literacy. I think we'd work with the money team at the university and in the union to get the right content, potentially look at outside providers, what already exists, and to make sure that people engage with it, again, promote it on all the social media, look to when people ask about the hardship fund or anything like that, let them know that this support is there. And I think most people who would want to learn more about financial literacy, how to do their taxes, their savings, things like that, would search for it and would find it on the union website. Yeah, everyone's so excited about it. That was, it's something that I'm passionate about, something I've been passionate about for a while, and I think it's needed in a university setting.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now a question to you both, a little bit easier than the ones I've been asking before. What is your best quality that you think you would be able to bring to the union? Oriana?
Okay. How do I do this without sounding bustful? So I think that because of my experience with the support services, I can listen. I think it's so overlooked. Sometimes one of my favorite quotes is that we listen to answer and not to hear. Incorporating that to everything that I'm looking to do, everything on my manifesto depends on what the students want. So listening, being able to be the person that they come to when they, need something. Obviously, having those boundaries in person in yourself, so that you can offer support without overwhelming yourself. We're always able to help others better if we're also helping ourselves. So being self-aware and being able to listen, I think.
Thank you so much. And Tudor?
I would say my approachability. I've had a number of people tell me that I give off friendly vibes and I'm approachable. So I think being VP support is obviously a very visible role, representing the support services at the union. I think being approachable is absolutely key to making sure that students are happy to reach out for help, are willing to do that, and to know that they are supported no matter where they are in their university career.
Thank you so much. And my last question is, out of our union president candidates, who has your vote? Oriana?
Oh, God. So I'm going to wait for the debate. Yeah.
All right. And Tudor?
I was also going to say I was going to wait for the debate, but that doesn't feel right. I like both manifestos. I think the manifestos nicely encapsulate support services too, which is awesome. And I would be happy to work with either, so I'm not going to pick a side at the moment.
Thank you both. Wonderful. So that concludes our VP support debates. Both of our candidates did an incredible job. I'm up here right now, and I got to tell you, it's a little bit scary, and I'm not even the one answering the questions. So please give a huge, huge round of applause to both of our candidates.
Hello everyone and welcome to Pundits Corner. We have a variety of university staff members here and we're going to let them introduce themselves. We'll start with you, Lucy.
Thanks, AJ. Hi everyone, great to be here. I'm Lucy Evans, I'm Chief Student Officer.
Hi everyone, I'm Holly. I am the Joint Head of Student Experience.
Hi there, my name's Tom. I run Hoods Residential based in the Student Union, and we provide off-campus accommodation for University of Surrey students.
Hi everyone, I'm Marie-Louisa Hajima. I'm the Joint Head of Student Experience and I look after my Surrey Hive, Money and International Student Support.
Fab. So one of the things that's actually previously come up in the debate is around providing support to students. And obviously because you work with accommodation and so forth, what support do you think could be available for both students on campus and off campus?
I think there's a lot of support available for students off campus. What we've tried to do off the back of USL, so University of Surrey Lettings used to be part of accommodation, which is where I used to work within the university. But since moving privately and becoming Hoods Residential, we're now working with the Student Union to keep up a support service which is available to all students for anybody having difficulties with problems to do with their private accommodation. So issues with landlords, issues with deposits, issues within their households, and we're trying to connect that with on-campus services such as the money team if students are having difficulties with paying their rent, or the welfare team if students are having issues communicating with each other, and more broadly into the community. So Guildford Borough Council, for example, we work closely with on issues surrounding bins, for example. So there's a lot of support that we can offer and that I can help support the Student Union offer to students off campus and on campus. Sorry, I know the accommodation team do a fantastic job supporting students as well. So there's a lot there.
Mm-hmm. Right. So Lucy, on to you. Let's talk about safeguarding, because I hear you're quite well informed. Is there anything you'd like to highlight about safeguarding in particular?
Thanks, AJ. Really appreciate the question. Well, I was just keen to talk about this because it came up as part of the questions, and I think I just wanted to really highlight what we're here about, which is about support for students. And so student safety, students' wellbeing, just general life support is absolutely fundamental to what we deliver in the Directorate and across the university. So I think I just wanted to reiterate that, and whomever is successful in this round of Surrey Decides, look forward to working with the team on that going forwards. Safeguarding is something just a little bit more special and unique, and I just wanted to make sure that there was clear differentiation there. I think students safeguarding is something that we term in terms of children and adults at risk, if that's correct. I looked at Holly because I always get those terms mixed up. And there are particular requirements that those people need. So we do need to make sure that those students who are under 18 or at risk of, say, abuse and so on, are treated exceptionally with care, because they are really vulnerable, and we have specialist services that are there to support students in that situation. So it was just important for me, AJ, to make sure that as a student community we understand that we're here to support everyone, but we do have specialist support for certain groups.
So Holly, since you say you work with students as well, if the VP voice, not VP voice, sorry, that's me thinking back to myself a couple of years ago, but whoever gets elected as VP support, inevitably they'll have a relationship with you in some shape or capacity. Are there any particular projects or anything that you head that you can see yourself working with the VP support in?
Yeah, absolutely. So as part of my role as the other half of the Joint Head of Student Experience, I look after widening participation and outreach and our teams that work within the community and local community, but also the student success team at the university, which really plays a role in supporting our student body, particularly with kind of more sort of complex cases, or if there's lots of things that are going on that a student really needs help with unpicking things and working through with someone, whether that's a one-off thing or weekly for the duration of their studies. And within that as well, we're looking really to foster a sense of community and make sure that every student that comes to Surrey feels that they belong and they fit in here, and that there is space carved out for them. They can bring their full selves to study. And I think one of the things that we would really like to do is work with now I'm doing it. Is work with VP support to and the other VPs to really make sure that we are doing everything we can as a student experience department to foster that sense of well-being and that sense of community. So listening to some of the things on the manifestos tonight, really kind of you can see how that starts to work in and link together, which is quite exciting actually. Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. What about yourself, Maria, in terms of that question, and also perhaps money, support and so forth?
Yeah, so I look after the money team, and I think from our end there are a few financial changes possibly happening within the UK in terms of energy bills going up, and we want to make sure that our students are supported in those changes through the hardship fund, and also in terms of everyday budgeting, because you have to now include that in terms of your budget now if your bills do go up, and then that's maybe working with Tom's team as well in terms of private rented accommodation and seeing how that balances out. In terms of international students, I think we just need to make sure with Brexit happening as well, we need to make sure that our EU students who are now classified as overseas still feel welcome, still feel comfortable, and know that we are here, we are open to them being here, and we really want them to study here and make the best out of it. So I think we've got quite a few things going on there, and we would like to work with the new VP support on that.
Fantastic. Okay, so another thing that's frequently come up today was report and support. Some of you might not necessarily be aware of what report and support is, but I'm going to hand over to Lucy to hopefully explain to you guys what report and support is and what services are available.
Thank you, AJ. So report and support is really important in the university, whether there is no room in our university for any form of discrimination, bullying, harassment, abuse. And report and support was introduced as a tool for students to be able to report, and staff actually, student staff, visitors, to be able to use an online tool to be able to report any experiences of that. And regrettably, these things do happen, and we want to help support anybody that experiences that. So you can go onto the platform and you can report anonymously, or you can put your name on it. I mean, we would really encourage you to say who you are, because then we can follow up directly with you, which is always better in terms of being able to directly support you, but also so that we can follow up on cases, so that if there needs to be repercussions or investigations or anything like that, we can do that. Just to reiterate that any investigation that we do have will support anybody involved in that. And the other thing through the platform is when you do report, you will be allocated to specific services that are available to help you in the experiences that you've had. Any report that comes through are looked at. Every single report, whether it's anonymous or not, are looked at. They are investigated, and that we do take action where we possibly can to make sure that we try and minimise these things happening again. So report and support is really powerful. It's something that we created in conjunction with the Students' Union. So it was a collaborative project with the University and Students' Union, and I think it's a really positive thing out of something difficult to have. But does that sort of cover what you wanted? Yeah.
You previously mentioned that you work with students within widening participation. Within those demographics of students, what kind of support do you provide them? And can you maybe mention an example of people from widening participation for those of you that don't actually know what the term means?
Yeah, so when we talk about widening participation, we're talking about supporting students from underrepresented groups, so students who are statistically less likely to progress to higher education, I'm tripping myself up. So we're supporting those students to not only access university, but to succeed whilst they're here, which is really important, and to progress from university into highly skilled employment or further study. So some of the things that we currently do at the moment is, for example, we run a mentoring program for young people, so year 9 students, which is around 13, 14 years old, who are specifically from underrepresented groups, but specifically we have one for students who are from Gypsy, Roma and Traveller communities. We have a specific mentoring programme for students who are of Black heritage, which for as much as possible we make sure that students from the university who mentor those young people are from those same groups. So where we can, we find students here who are also of Black heritage to mentor those young people, or where we can, we find students who are from a Traveller background to do the same thing. For example, we have a summer school that's for care experienced young people, where we get student ambassadors from the university to work at summer school with those young people. Once they progress to university, we hand over to the student success team, and they support those young people and those learners. I say young people, but actually we should be saying learners, because we're talking about mature students as well. Support those learners through their journey here. So we have loads of bespoke, tailored support that are for one-to-one activities, but also things that are university-wide that everyone can access, but are kind of tailored and really provided because we know that there are particular students who would really benefit from activities. So, for example, the library runs schemes like Pause and Pals, which are peer-assisted writing and peer-assisted learning schemes, L. And also our employability and careers department run a phenomenal amount of mentoring programs specifically for Black students, a number of activities that essentially make sure that students feel as equipped as they can to go off into the workplace. And one of the ones that's just very recently launched is the Graduate Futures Programme, which is supporting 8 students from the university into employment, but within the university itself once they graduate, which is incredibly exciting. So hopefully that gives you a bit of a range.
Very informative.
You have to stop her talking.
No, it's fine. The more information, the better. Okay, so Maria, you speak about providing money, support for students, because sometimes some students do come to the union and ask us what we can do to support them, but obviously we do direct them over to people like yourself. Is there any particular area that you specialise in, so to say, in terms of where students can come to the university in terms of support financially for certain situations, a hardship fund, and so forth?
Yeah, so I think the best example is during COVID. We helped many students that possibly lost their placement because they couldn't attend their placement any longer, or because they were working part-time and they lost that job. So I think at the moment it's almost recovering from that for students, even for those that are non-students, you know, financially recovering from that. And I think at the moment we are still in that process, and we are quite lucky. We have a very good hardship fund that's very flexible in terms of helping our students, and our fund is open to all of our students. So some universities have it only specifically, for example, to UK, whereas Surrey, we're very lucky to have that open to all our students. And at the moment, if you're asking me what specifically or what we're specialising in, is probably recovering from this very hard period and helping our students through that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Fab. Thank you for the information.
Thanks.
Also, for those of you that aren't actually aware, Tom also has a space in the union, so if you want to pop by and drop a visit, he's the guy for you.
Good drop there, yes, absolutely. Yes, so we're opposite reception in the Student Union building now for all your off-campus accommodation needs.
Yeah, so speaking of off-campus, several students obviously come to university accommodation, they live in halls, but transitioning to off-campus can sometimes be a bit daunting for some students because they're away from what they've previously known. What kind of things would you suggest students to do or should be aware of in terms of making them feel comfortable once they're off-campus?
I think it goes back to, I remember when I first started university, one of the very first lectures I had, it was a guest sort of welcome to the university sort of style with a professor who said around about 50% of what you learn at university is not in the classroom. And that I've carried that all the way through. I really believe that when students move off campus and start to learn how to pay gas bills, electric bills, how to shop at Tesco, managing money, little things that we think like that, it's a big change and it's a big shift. But the university is completely on hand to support with all aspects of it. So yeah, anything we can help out with, we're here.
Thank you guys so much for contributing to this discussion. We'll see you guys back here again for VP community discussions. Thank you guys. Over to you.
Chairing the debate for the Community Zone, Michelle Ching.
Good evening and welcome back. It's me again. I hope you missed me because I am back with a whole new batch of candidates. This time we're going to be looking at the Community Zone. But before we start the debate for Community Zone, I did want to mention the role of RAG Chair. RAG stands for Raising and Giving, and the RAG Chair sits within the Community Zone. The RAG Chair is responsible for leading the union's fundraising activities and for working with RAG reps in the clubs and societies to make that a success. The union has some big ambitions for RAG, and the RAG Chair has to take that forward. This year, we have one candidate for RAG Chair, Theodora, but unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight to join us in the room or online. But don't worry, you can find her manifesto on the Union website, and we encourage you to read it to find a little bit more about her and why she's running. Theodora will be on the ballot as Theo for RAG and is running against Reopen nominations, otherwise known as RUN. We'll now move on and welcome to the stage the candidates for the Community Zone.
Please welcome to the stage your candidates for Community Zone.
Wonderful. So thank you for all candidates for joining us here today, whether that is in person or online. So I think we've got Alina here online today. Can you hear us all right?
Hello.
Wonderful.
Yes, I can hear you.
Wonderful. So first of all, we've got a bit of an easy question. So just to introduce yourself in 30 seconds and tell us why you're running. So we're just going to start from my left.
Hello everyone, I'm Elena and I'm a business student who's on placement at the Union this year as digital comms assistant. And actually on placement I've worked quite closely with the community zone, especially like a bit more with the Rubik side of things, but basically I've just seen the huge impact it like makes in students, and I just want to work even closer with the community zone next year hopefully, and just try out new things and help students just live their best student lives.
Thank you. Just a quick note, if I could remind all candidates just to speak as close as you can to your mic. You're okay, but I can see some of the mics are a little bit further away just to make sure that we can all hear you perfectly. And Emily, do you mind going next?
Yeah, so hey, my name's Emily and I'm a second year psychology student. I'm also the president of PsychSoc as well as being a psychology course representative. This year I'm running for Community Zone in Surrey Decides because whilst I've had a really great time at uni and really enjoyed it, I know that experience isn't universal for everybody, and I'd like to be instrumental in making that change to make sure that uni is somewhere that everybody can thrive in. More importantly, I'm running for the students who feel as though they aren't being represented by the events that are being run on campus, for those who are struggling within their community, as well as those who feel like their safety is regularly compromised on a night out.
Thank you. And Alina?
Hello everyone, I'm Elina. I study tourist management and I'm currently on my placement year working in international relations in Switzerland. I'm running for the community zone as I wish to make all of you feel included in our community by expanding the range of events and activities students can take part in. I also wish to bring more volunteering opportunities to ensure sustainability is at the core of everything the university does and to help students become more employable.
Thank you. Wonderful. And Monisha?
Hi, my name is Monisha and I'm a first year computer science student and also a course rep. I've been fortunate enough to be a candidate for the community zone as well as for Surrey Decides, as you know, some people within my course have seen me, bring people together, such as hosting study sessions, and within the first few months of being in university, and I believe that I would be a great community zone member.
Thank you. Wonderful. And Tash?
Hi everyone, I'm Tash and I'm a second year veterinary bioscience student. I'm currently the treasurer for gospel choir. I was a course rep last year, and if you recognise me, it might be because I work behind the bar in Rubik's. I'm running for this role because I see a really big potential for change within the variety of events that are put on and hosted in Rubik's and in other common spaces on campus, and I really think that students can get involved in the production and planning of these events as well.
Thank you. And last but not least, Oyinkan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Oyinkan. I'm a second year law student and currently the Vice President of Surrey African Caribbean Society. I'm running for the community zone so that I can help improve the community feel around Surrey. People feel more welcome, student life, like socially, and generally improving and just being the change that I want to see.
Thank you. Wonderful. So now we're going to move on to the manifesto questions. So I'll go from my left again. Elena, you mentioned that you wanted to create opportunities for students to walk together after a night out. How do you plan to create these opportunities, and how does this differ from Welfare Watch?
Exactly. Okay, so basically in Welfare Watch, what happens is if you're like drunk, if you're drunk after Rubik's, or maybe you don't have anyone to go home, but still like, it's more on the you don't feel well enough to basically get out of Rubik's, so you go to the front room and you've got Welfare Watch volunteers that help you sober up. But then at the time where you have to go home, they cannot at the time really help you get out of there, if that makes sense. Currently, I know the community zone has plans to get some volunteers across campus, but they'd be basically walking on our campus to just kind of see people who are going back home, maybe help them. But then there's a bit of a problem for students that live maybe at Manor Park or Hazel Farm, where they have to go further. And I just think it'd be nice for them to have something to help them feel safer going home. So this could be done in different ways. It could be maybe making a group chat on like Teams, maybe across the different places people live at, and it could be monitored by someone. Or we could also create an online platform or tool for students to just have someone there to maybe not help them physically walk home, but just someone there with them in the walk home so that they feel safer.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Emily, you mentioned that you want to introduce a volunteering network to increase student engagement. How would you envision this happening?
Okay, yeah. So first of all, according to the Pulse survey, only 28% of students feel that the Students' Union is making them more employable, which is quite low considering. And employability ratings over the past year have only increased by 8%, which is again quite low. And volunteering is an integral part of employability, and it does like make you more employable when you put that on your CV. So to create the volunteering network, it would be kind of similar in a way to how Surrey Moves works, in terms of like there's, you can see other people on there, you can join in with groups and stuff like that. And altogether, just to continue to promote Surrey volunteering. Their Instagram page at the moment isn't very active, and it isn't really promoting Surrey volunteering. So I think continuing to promote that, and as well to introduce volunteering ambassadors. So those would be people that would promote the Surrey volunteering network from within for students, because students promoting it to students is a good way to advertise things. So that would be the plan.
Great, thank you so much. And Alina, you said that you would be looking into international volunteering activities. Do you think that there is an appetite for international volunteering activities, and how do you plan to implement this?
Yes, so as Emily said, I believe volunteering is so important, and it really does help a lot with employability. So I was actually part of such a project of international volunteering, where I went to an island called Reunion to help the local people develop entrepreneurial mindsets. And I feel like that experience has helped me so much. And when I had placement interviews, all the employers asked me about it. So I think it would be really cool to promote such volunteering opportunities, so more students can have a chance to get out of their comfort zone and to experience something like that.
Thank you. And Monisha, you hope to make sustainability more interactive through competitions and challenges where students could win vouchers. Could you give an example of a challenge and how you might plan to fund the vouchers, for example?
That's a very good question, actually. So I've seen that a lot of other universities have been using this green reward system. So they'll be able to set their own challenges, and based on those challenges, it can be ranked on priority. So something that's very important then can be set as the very first challenge to be make on a weekly basis. And not only that, I've seen that there are also like quite annual challenges. So like in the end, at the end of the academic year, whoever has raised or been the most sustainable will be able to win a huge voucher at the end.
Thank you. So for Tash, could you please expand on your idea of sober club nights? Will there be no alcohol whatsoever on these nights? And how often do you imagine they might run?
Okay, so the sober club nights is, I think, something that really, really needs to be brought to the union. I've actually spoke to the community manager, Jade, already about my idea for sober club nights, and she's definitely on board with them going ahead whether I'm elected or not. So realistically, they would be like completely no alcohol nights. I think originally it would begin in the basement just so you can get like a number idea. And how like I would see it running is almost like a school disco. So like we'd have like a little like tuck shop as well, so you could buy like snacks. And I think it would be ran more as an evening event rather than a club night event. And also I think the idea of sober club nights then also builds on the fact that we need more non-alcoholic options for drinks in the union. So on a Rubik's night, at the moment you can only have PMX or you can have juice, and I just think that's a really like rubbish option for non-alcoholic drinks. So maybe with the introduction of sober club nights, that would also come along with expanding a menu to maybe like mocktails, adding stuff onto the menu like J2Os, appetizers, non-alcoholic beers and ciders and wines, and like the continue. I can't think of the right word. The like frequency of these events I would see probably happening at least once a month, because I think quite a lot of the events, like a glitter bomb, for example, that usually runs once a month as like a one-off event. So that's kind of how I'd see them being run for sure.
Fantastic, thank you. And for Oyinkan, we have a wide variety of cultural societies on campus who run events to accommodate students from a variety of cultures. How does your idea of hosting more cultured events differ from this?
Thank you. So I feel like with these cultural events, they're usually tailored to the people that are members of this society. However, with my idea, this will be running throughout campus, so perhaps a cultural week where students from different backgrounds can honestly get to know about different societies, and they can join societies that they may not be culturally part of. This would also be really important and helpful towards international students who share a unique experience, and they would be able to bring their experiences towards our campus because Surrey is very diverse. This would work not just in the way that the One World Gala with showcasing things. This could help with showcasing music, food, fashion from different parts of the world, so we can really celebrate the different cultures that we have here at Surrey.
Wonderful, thank you. And just a quick note to our candidates, please once again just make sure that your microphones are close to you so that we can hear you properly. And also make sure not to mention the names of any union staff. As part of election protocol, they they cannot be mentioned by name. So we're just going to start with a second manifesto question. Please try to make your answers a little bit brief so that we can make sure we can get through everybody. So we're going to start from my right this time. So another question for Oyinkan. How do you plan to encourage students to think of their own fundraising ideas? Would this be something students could vote on, or are you giving them the autonomy to kind of choose their own personal volunteering opportunities?
So this could work in two ways, where people could present their ideas and then people could vote on which they think they like the most, or it could work in a way where we have a volunteering week, so students have the opportunity to present and raise money in whichever way they can, and there'll be a total amount collected towards this.
Thank you. And for Tash, your manifesto states that you would like to run student polls for events. How do you plan to roll out these polls and make sure that you're actually engaging students?
So I think in the terms of polls, it would be best to be sent out via email. So I know that we get the union newsletter. I can't remember if it's weekly or if it's monthly, but I think rolling out a poll on that would help with the student engagement, as well as advertising it on all of the social medias and making sure that the poll is accessible via links, so people can, click into it directly from an Instagram post, for example, as well as directly through an addressed email. And I think that would just be the best way to make sure that it is outreach to all of the students. And unfortunately, you do have the issue there that not everyone engages with the union email. And as well, I think that's something that should be pushed onto the students so they can actually see then as well what the union do for them as students.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And for Monisha, could you explain what you envision a relaxation session to be and how it would improve mental health and well-being?
So obviously mental health and well-being is the primary thing for all of us to, achieve what we want and get going ahead in life. So one way I plan to implement this is putting sessions during exam week, because obviously everyone's busy, they want, and they're not able to find a way to relax themselves. And I believe that by creating sessions within campus, I feel like people have the opportunity to go there and spend some time meeting other people who have also done their exams and want to spend time together, or play any games, or have a little mini movie night session or something like that.
Fantastic, thank you. And Alina, you mentioned that you were looking into events that would work for both introverts and extroverts. What kind of events do you think would work for both of these types of people?
So although parties are fun and definitely a part of the student life, I feel that not everyone likes partying for various reasons. Some students might feel uncomfortable even because of post-COVID anxiety. And so I believe that by organizing events in smaller groups, students that maybe feel more introverted would feel more comfortable socializing and would be able to make friends and enjoy their experience better. So basically just organizing events in smaller groups, or maybe things that work for both, like a book club that can be joined by students that are extrovert and introverts. So things like this.
Thank you so much. And Emily, could you explain a bit more about your postcode community events? Where would these be hosted, and how do you plan to encourage students to engage with their community?
Yeah, definitely. So postcode community events would basically be that students can meet others on campus that live near to them. So for example, I know this year a lot of people were pushed into second-year housing quite quick because of coronavirus, and there was like a big push to get your housemates really fast. And people after that might realize that maybe they're not the best people to live with, or they want to expand and meet other people. So postcode community events would essentially be students coming in. It doesn't have to be exclusively that they live in town or they live in Stoughton, but it's aimed at people in those different areas so that they can meet others that live near them, so that it creates a sense of community and that they know others that are local to them.
Fantastic, thank you. And Elena, what ideas do you have for more non-drinking social events during Freshers and throughout the year? And do you think that this is something that you could involve other societies in?
Yes, of course. So this year they have actually did quite a few non-drinking events during Freshers, but I just think we could do more of them. So for example, we could utilize the front room, which will hopefully very soon come back to be used by students. So we could have board games nights in there. We could also do video games. We could directly go to students and ask them, what would you want to do? What would you want to have? What events? And we could do this throughout the years. And again, yeah, totally, we could involve societies, ask them what they want to do. This year, we've given it a go in the activity zone. Lots of societies have been involved, so I really think lots of societies would love to get involved with this.
Great, thank you. And my question to each of you now is, which of your manifesto points do you think has the highest potential to positively impact the Surrey student community? I'll go from my left this time.
So one of them I've got is bring back the free postgrad breakfast. And I think this is a very important one because, as it's been said in prior debates today, postgrads sometimes sadly aren't as involved in the union and with the university. So I think this would just be a very nice thing and a very nice opportunity for them to come into the union building, see a bit of what we do, also for us to check up on them, see how they're doing, what they want, and just have a nice start of their day.
Thank you. And Emily?
Yeah, so I think my one would be student safety on campus, because student safety on campus should always be paramount. And without student safety being ensured, you can't have more events, you can't have that community feel, you can't do the volunteering. So that is what should be the highest priority.
Thank you. And Alina?
I think for me it would be volunteering, because it's something that it can have a very long-term impact. Not only does it help students become more employable, but it also helps our community at large. So I feel this has a huge potential to positively impact not only our university, but also our wider Surrey community.
Great, thank you. Manisha?
I believe my number one point on my manifesto, which is hashtag Greener Surrey, because I feel like at this point of time, everyone is becoming more aware about being more sustainable in life and, you know, reusing products or thinking of different ways that they can be, that they can do to be a bit more sustainable. And I believe that if everyone, like, you know, contributes something small in their daily life, whether it be, you know, recycling plastic or using products, reusing products, or even walking to the university or instead of taking the bus, I believe that it could have a truly positive impact. And it also ties with one of Alina's manifesto points of, you know, promoting a bit more sustainability to all students so that they can feel good that they're doing something that can change the university to be a better university.
Thank you. And Tash?
I'm going to go with my manifesto point on broadening the music genres and the music variety that's played in Rubik's, because I really think that that will impact student experience, because it means that there are more tailored club nights to what everybody, you know, what music tastes appeal to more students. So I do think that, you know, having a bit more variety other than just a citrus or a flirt, and, you know, maybe having R&B nights, indie nights, rock nights, metal nights, 80s nights, you know, bring back funk, soul, disco, you know. I think by broadening those horizons, you know, you're going to get a lot more student engageability with Rubik's, and therefore will increase student satisfaction.
Great, thank you. Finally, Oyinkan.
So I would say they're having more daytime event and outdoor events. I feel like the community zone has typically been towards Rubik's, but I feel like having this wider variety will allow for students who perhaps don't like going out in the evening, or students that commute to university and can't get back late at night. I also, listening to the Student Voice Forum this week, some students mentioned not necessarily feeling like as welcome in the town centre. And I believe that having more events happening on campus will allow students to enjoy the campus feel more. It will also allow for students who perhaps have post-COVID anxiety, and that outdoor events, like being outside, necessarily they don't always want to feel cramped up next to other people all the time, and I feel like this will definitely help.
Thank you. So can we get a huge round of applause for our candidates, please? They've done an amazing job tonight. And just the last piece from me, the union is hosting an event on the 14th of March called Light Up the Night. It's a protest walk to promote our No More Week campaign. and we're looking for stewards for this walk. So please go to the union website to register your interest in becoming a steward. And thank you to all of you for being here, whether you're here or if you're tuning in from home. That's all from me for this evening. So please join us after the break for our VP community debates.
I'm voting because I want the right people to lead the future of Surrey.
I'm voting because it affects my society and my passions.
I'm voting because I've been at Surrey for 4 years and I've seen the impact that the union has on student experience.
I'm voting because I know how valuable the union support services are and I'd like to see them continue.
I'm voting because I want my voice to be heard.
I want to influence how the union gives back to the community.
I'm voting because I want an impact on my Surrey experience.
I'm voting because I believe representation is important. I want to vote for someone who represents my values and the change that I want to see at university.
I'm voting because I care who represents the student body.
I'm voting because I want to help ensure my peers and I are supported through our university experience.
I'm voting because it impacts the student experience.
I am voting because student democracy really makes a difference.
I'm voting because I love how one student's voice can impact such a large community.
Please welcome to the stage your chair for the VP Community Debate, Chloe Hinchcliffe.
Hello, hello, hello. Are we all excited for our debate for the VP community? Can we have our candidates, please?
Please welcome to the stage your candidates for VP Community.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so we're going to start with a classic. Can you please introduce yourselves and tell us why you're running? You have 30 seconds. So can we start from my left?
Hi everyone, my name is Margarita. I'm a fourth year politics student. I'm also a support zone PTO, president of Fashion Society and the events manager of Italian Society. You might have seen me organize the Mediterranean Nights in Rubik's, the one we had on Thursday as well. I'm running because, did you ask if I'm running, why I'm running? Was that part of the question? Yes. I'm running because I've obviously worked in the union this year and I've enjoyed it so much. I worked with the community zone in collaboration with some events, especially in Freshers Week, and I think I can do a lot with the community zone.
Fantastic, thank you. Jade?
Hi, I'm Jo, and I'm running for VP Community because I'm extremely passionate about making the best student experience for the students. As Abacus President, a Rubik's team member, and having worked on previous projects with the VP community himself, I feel like that gives me the utmost experience to fulfill this role to this full potential. Thank you.
And Dan?
Hi guys, I'm Dan Hood. I'm a third-year vet student. I'm currently RAG chair in the community zone. And for the rest of my time, I'd like to give you the first verse of my campaigning song, VP Shanty. There once was a man who went to Surrey and he ran to be your next VP. He wants to do more for charity and help make Rubik safe. Man of the community, running to be your VP, working hard for charity, please vote for me.
And Matt, please.
Well, there's no way I'm going to be able to top that. Hi guys, I'm Matt. I am a second-year politics student and my third year at Surrey. I want to be VP Community because I'm passionate about everyone having a great student experience at Surrey. I've been heavily involved in clubs and societies. I'm the current president of the running club and have been vice president and treasurer of other clubs and societies previously, so I've quite a bit of experience and have seen a lot of different aspects of the university. So I just want to make it better for everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. So we're going to start with some manifesto questions. So, Margarita, the charities are voted on each year by students. Do you think the union SABs should show more of say in the charities' choice?
Yeah, so obviously the charities are voted by students, and I think that should remain the process. My manifesto idea is to actually add a third charity to our partner charities. RAGCheck has done an incredible job at expanding RAG, so I think as we expect to be able to fundraise more, it's only fair that we add a third charity, and I really think it should be an environmental charity. This will be able to be voted by the students, so the students will have a list, but there will just be a third charity that is just environmental that they can choose from.
Thank you very much. Dan, how would you propose the large-scale event differ from the end of year show, and why do you want to host it in June when many students have left campus or are studying?
So I think what makes the large event different is that students will have much more input on it. It will be voted in September at the start of the year, and then it'll be worked on throughout the year, so we have a solid 8-month period to work on it. We'll be linking up with the events network to make this happen, so it's a great opportunity for, again, events management students to get that experience that they need as part of their course, and any students who want to volunteer their time and be part of it. I do want to incorporate it as part of end of year show, so it's going to be the big kind of flagship night, and I think it has to be this summer because we have to have a time frame where we have enough time to plan it, but we also, I appreciate some students will go half exams, but if we put it towards the end of exam period, the largest number of students will be able to do it, and it will be the biggest event that it can be.
Thank you. Okay, Joe, so Rubik's nights with a high attendance of non-students lead to higher rates of fights, drunkenness, and some abuse towards staff. On your manifesto, it says you've organised 2 Asian nights. Very impressive. So, which is one of these evenings that will attract a higher number of external guests. So when you organised Asian night, what did you do to try and reduce these problems?
So firstly, I do understand that it is a problem, and the way that I went about organising Asian night is I made sure to advertise it on only Surrey advertisements, so whether it be our Surrey Abacus Instagram's account or Surrey Teams and or other platforms such as WhatsApp that are only exclusive to Surrey members. Additionally, we did mention how when we were advertising tickets that if you were going to bring a friend, you need to make sure that you're solely responsible for your friend's actions, as by coming to any event of the Students' Union, whether it be an Abacus event, you are solely responsible and you are representing Abacus as a society, and therefore it's very, very important to make sure that you are acting responsible and that you are behaving properly to respect the staff and the campus security. So yeah, going forward, I would make sure to advertise it to Surrey students as well as putting the message out to make sure that you are responsible for your friends if they do come.
Great answer, thank you. So just a quick question I'd like to pose to the rest of the candidates. Do you think that the university should limit non-student access? Can we start with Margarita?
I definitely think that it should be limited for Wednesdays and Fridays because I think the priority should be for students and also safeguarding students. I've personally organised nights in Rubik's where I know non-students came and it was fine. So I think it's fine to have non-students. I definitely think if it does become a problem where we have too many fights, we have too many non-students because Rubik's is a student nightclub, then I think it should be. But I don't think we're at the point where it is an issue.
Dan?
Yeah, so I think this is in reference to Asian Night, where unfortunately a group of students from another university did attend and were quite rowdy and did have to be escorted off campus by security. I think I agree with Margarita. I think Wednesday and Friday nights should be primarily for students. These are our student nights that we as a union run. I think especially at the weekends, so any Saturday nights, any society club and takeover nights, it should be at their discretion. I feel that, again, non-students can behave as well as any Surrey students, but especially on our set student nights, those nights should be for students.
Thank you. And Matt, please.
So I think there's definitely a place for non-student tickets. They definitely should remain in some form, because there's certainly a lot of people who are like former Surrey students and just want to come back to Rubik's every once in a while. But yeah, the problem stems from the people who are just coming here to cause problems. But you can't, just getting rid of the non-student tickets wouldn't solve that issue, because you might even have students causing that problem. So maybe, I think the solution is probably more to split it up a bit more and like restrict who can get those tickets and definitely restrict the numbers themselves. But it's not like, there are issues that are occurring, clearly, but it's not a hugely widespread issue from what I can tell. But it definitely does need working on.
Thank you. And Joe, what are your thoughts?
I definitely believe that the Surrey Union, club room nights should be accessible to students and non-students, because it is all about a community. And I do think that there is already a limit on non-student tickets. However, in some extreme cases, if there were to be antisocial behaviour, I do believe that the union can handle those problems by excluding certain individuals instead of excluding non-students as a whole. And I believe that that would make the community a bit better, and as well as deter people from acting in those behaviours.
Thank you. Just a quick reminder, if you could speak closely to your microphones like this and not like this, it makes it much easier to hear. Okay, so Matt, your manifesto has a big focus on student safety. Do you think that the consent course should be mandatory, and why?
I probably have a slightly controversial view on the consent course, I'd say. I don't think there's anything wrong with the consent course, and I think its intentions are perfectly good, but I think, unfortunately, the people that it's aimed at trying to improve their behaviour on wouldn't really pay much attention to it, and I don't feel like it would make a big difference in overall. While I think the intention is good and that it should probably be mandatory, I feel like it would end up just not having much of an effect. But definitely pushing it more, because I know there's a lot of people that are not aware of the consent course. Even though the huge push the union and the university have done for it, it's still a lot of people are unaware of it. And it took me a while to do it, admittedly, just because I didn't know where it was for quite a long time, and trying to access the website I had difficulties with because it was a different website. But when I did do it, it did highlight some things. I thought, oh, I didn't think of that before. So yeah, I do like the consent course. I do think it's great, but I don't know if making it mandatory would actually...
You say that you would own... The only thing that you say about...
Do not. There's quite a few things on my manifesto that aren't on my manifesto that I do want to work on. Obviously, you're limited to what you focus. I think safety at Rubik's is paramount above other aspects of Rubik's that need to be adjusted, especially as women's safety is a priority campaign this year. Especially on the safety side, I'm a Work for Watch supervisor. I've dealt with Again, students who haven't had as good night, making sure that they're safe, they're sobering up safely. That's an area I'm much more confident in and knowledgeable about. I am aiming to be much more approachable if elected, so I want to listen to student feedback. I want to know what you want. I heard Funk Soul. Everyone was looking forward to that coming back. So again, that is definitely on my radar, and we'll be looking to put events for this. I'm looking for student engagement to tell us what you would like, how you would like to change. And again, working with my PTOs, they've had some great ideas about what they want to change in Rubik's, and I'm looking forward to working with them to implement those changes.
Thank you. So Margarita, you would like to turn Harry's bar into a sports bar until midnight during exams. How would you ensure that Stag Hill accommodation is not disturbed by noise?
Yeah, so currently Harry's bar is open most nights. Societies use it for prees. The only thing that would change is we'd put a bigger and better screen where the current stage is, and obviously show sports. I know this already happens at the bench bar, and I don't see there has been lots of problems with it. Also, it would serve, the purpose of it being open until midnight during exams is that we would also include food. So at the moment, you can't get food on campus late at night during exam season, which is really difficult for students that want to stay at the library till late. So that is the purpose of keeping Harry's open till late during exams rather than the sports itself, because the sports tend to end earlier. But definitely, I think if there was then a problem when we do implement it, then we can look into it. But I don't think it's a big problem at the moment.
Thank you. Okay, Joe, your manifesto says you would like to see more training for bar and door staff. So what kind of extra training would you like to see?
I would like to see a push for Ask Angela, because I do feel like it's an amazing scheme that the bar staff do have, and I do think it's really important. And additionally, I would like more training to do with security, so making sure that they are checking females and males, and that would go directly into my manifesto point into increasing female security, because obviously girls would feel so much more comfortable with girls checking girls. So because there has been an increase of like sneaking like Magnum bottles and like other prohibited items into Rubik's that can be really unsafe. So additionally that, and just making sure that everyone understands the protocols of when and what to do if you do see something, and to make sure that the staff is trained to know what to do as well. And I think that's very important to me as well, because I've also experienced it where I've been in like a club and I didn't know what to do, and certain situations happen and you don't know who to speak to, and I didn't know exactly how to talk to bar staff properly. So yeah, I do think it's very, very important to me.
Thank you. Matt. Hi. So you would like more thorough searches and checks as people enter Rubik's. Last year, the rate of spiking reported at Royal Surrey Hospital remained under 10 for the year. Do you think that extra checks are worth the slower queue when the current amount appears to be effective?
So I am currently on the community zone this year, and we had quite a big discussion about all of this when the spiking incidents were heavily in the news. And what we established was there definitely is, on Royal Surrey's part, a lack of reporting, because some people in this room might remember there was quite a widespread social media post that got spread around, so someone claimed they got spiked. We don't know if that's true or not, but we checked with Royal Surrey and they had no record of it. So even if they did go to Royal Surrey, they're not recording it properly. So I think there is a problem with Royal Surrey's reporting on it, and just reporting on it in general. I mean, not that many people do actually go to the staff when these incidents come. A lot of people just leave or stay with their friends, so there's no way for Rubik's to know. So I feel like making the checks as you go in, preventing the problem happening in the first place, is going to be more effective. And the queue isn't exactly slow as it is. I think the queue is actually quite efficient, and I've never had to wait particularly long to get into Rubik's, apart from the very, very busiest nights. And I think that slight extra wait is worth it for the overall improvement in safety that would come with it. I know that searching isn't perfect, and all the security checks, it can never be perfect, but making it better and more thorough can only make improvements.
Thank you. Okay, I have a question from Twitter for everyone. Very exciting. Okay, so shall we go from my left to my right? Of the 1,550 possible max entry to Rubik's, how many should be non-students? Margarita, please.
I think it depends on the night. Definitely, obviously, during Freshers Week, it would be a bit different, and end of year show, because that should prioritize students. I definitely think that 200 is a good number. Non-student tickets often don't get sold, and if they do get sold out, they often get sold to students just because they couldn't get non-student tickets. So I definitely think 200 is probably even a high number.
Thank you. Joe, please.
Currently, I don't think that is the maximum entry number of Rubik's. I believe it is, feel free to correct me, 1,150, something around those numbers.
It's 1,550, I promise.
Oh, okay. There is already a limit on non-student tickets. I believe it's like 100, but I would agree with Margarita and say about 200, because it is important that you do have non-student tickets, because some students are alumni and do want to enjoy like a Rubik's Club night out with their like friends and like enjoy the experience once again. And I do think it's possible that like some Surrey students who have friends from home that they would like to bring to Rubik's to celebrate with them, and they should feel as comfortable as they should around their own friends. So I do feel like it is important to have non-student tickets as well as student.
Thank you. And Dan?
Yeah, I think Marg and Joe have highlighted the need for non-student tickets. So again, I would say 200 on a Wednesday or Friday night. I think when it's a Club Society takeover night or their own event, I think it should be up to their discretion to determine how many non-student tickets can be sold.
Thank you. And Matt?
So I don't think there's much point putting a specific number on it. I know there is an existing number, but at the end of the day, non-student tickets are meant to be there for current Surrey students to bring their friends along to Rubik's, and there shouldn't be a limit on that. Making other measures like ensuring like banned people remain banned, which has had a lot of work done recently on it, and just ensuring overall safety, I think is a better method of improving Rubik's safety than putting arbitrary numbers on ticket sales.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. So, a lot of you talk about sustainability on your manifestos, and you list several ways that you would like to try and improve this. But if you could only make one sustainability reform, what would it be? Should we start with Matt, please?
Do you mind coming back to me after one person?
Of course. Dan?
Okay, so I attended the Sustainability Forum on Friday evening and had a great discussion with People and Planet about sustainability changes that we can make together as a union. I think my big take-home from that was to try and get us on Electronics Watch, where we are ensuring that our electronics, so that's like our Dell PCs, are sourced from sustainable suppliers. I think there's a massive amount of hardware that gets wasted because of these practices we haven't come in place, and I would look to move out of that as contracts start to expire from there.
Thank you. Joe?
So one sustainability point that I'm really passionate about is the process of no food wastage at our catering outlet. So that can be anywhere from Young's, Pizza Man, and even like Waits or Bench Bar. And I know some of these aren't union based, and if I were to be elected, I would be having to be working with the uni as well to make these changes happen. But what my idea is to create a platform or use existing platforms to sell or give away for free the unsold products that they have left over, because it's all about reducing that food waste. And if you can give it to a student that might not have the money to buy it for full price and or sell it for really, really cheap, I think that it's a great opportunity, because I know Hillside already does it with Surrey Food Share, and there's platforms like Too Good To Go, and that is really easy to use, and I feel like it's such a quick and easy fix for the union and the uni to do to prevent food being wasted.
Thank you. Margarita?
Well, I'm going to cheat my way into this and say that out of my manifesto points is Sustainability Week, which is a bit more than one event, to be honest. But out of all the events that I thought about, a fossil fuel-free careers fair would be probably the one that I would implement. This is because obviously Surrey does a lot to be sustainable, but students don't often have the opportunity to go into sustainable careers. We actually offer a lot of career paths into fossil fuel industries because we are affiliated with them. So I definitely think that promoting these career paths to students is really, really important. So I think that would be the one.
Thank you. And Matt, please.
So this is a bit of a cheat answer, but I think my point on expanding and implementing the sustainability framework is the most important one, because of all the previous work that's already been done. While I think my other points are still good and valid, I think making sure that the previous work that's been done by previous VP communities and the union goes ahead and is implemented properly after all the time that's been spent on that is the most important thing to be done.
Thank you. Okay, so just let me know if you want me to repeat this one. It's going to be a bit of a spiel beforehand. So, the supply costs of VKs have remained fairly steady for the last 5 years, and the union has been absorbing the small increases of about 1%-ish. But this year, the prices increased by 8%, and absorbing the loss would cost about 10 grand per year. So, would you increase the price of VKs by 10p for students to account for this? If not, how would you make up for the loss? Someone's got a phone call. Can we start with Margarita, please?
No, I wouldn't increase the price. I definitely think that the union can afford to lose 10 grand a year. And I think that after COVID, students are not back on working and they're still recovering from it. So I don't think it would be fair on students to increase the price to 10p, especially because VKs are the most popular drinks that we sell. I definitely would make up for the cost in other ways. For example, more club nights. I think opening Rubik's more would be great. I have a manifesto point about collaborating more with societies. I think that would be a really good way to attract more students to Rubik's on another days. And obviously, one Rubik's night does generate quite a lot of income. So I think 10 grand can be subsidized in that way.
Thank you. Joe, please.
I would honestly raise the price of a VK by 10p, because at the end of the day it is 10p, and I do feel like it's not a massive increase where it would off-put the buyers to buy VK. And the reason why I would do it is because, one, any money that goes to the student union gets put back into the events anyways. So any money that they do gain, because it is a non-profit student union, we do everything for the student union, for the students. So anything that they do gain off profit, which is such a small percentage, like you just said, it does get put back into more events in Rubik's, in the marquee, and all around campus. And 10 grand is a lot of money for like 10p per student, which is not a lot of money per student. So 10 grand that the union could have versus losing that 10 grand, and then they would have to find out the money somewhere else, and then they couldn't put out an event that they really wanted to do, I think personally would make a very, very big difference in the student union, because as I said before, we are here for the students, and everything goes back to the students' events for the students anyways. So yeah.
Thank you. Dan?
I would not increase the price of the VK. While I appreciate that that Rubik's is the main source of the union's income, I think students already complaining that the price of VK is too high. 10p doesn't seem like a lot, and I do appreciate that's 10 grand that we could reinvest. But I think then the onus is on us to then provide more events, have a larger quantity of events, get more people in, run it safely, sell more drinks responsibly, of course. But I think, yeah, we still have the potential to make that up. And I think it then is on us as a union to put more events on so that we are recouping that 10 grand loss throughout the year.
Thank you. And Matt?
Just put the blue one up to £5, that's all the problem. No, serious answer. I think it wouldn't be really fair on the union's budgets if we're just subsidising the cost of one drink. That if we're losing 10 grand a year because we want to keep the cost of VKs to £3 is not really fair when that money could be spent on something else. If we have 10 grand sitting around spare that we're not spending, which I highly doubt is the case, then you could keep it at that price. But I don't think it's particularly fair that just for people's preferences, you shouldn't increase it by such a tiny amount to cover the costs. And as it's been covered already, the student union, any money that's made by the student union goes back into the students. So why should we lose money on alcohol with the cost of 10 grand a year that could be spent on something else and making big improvements somewhere?
Thank you. Okay. So, this is another question for everyone. In relation to housing and accommodation, what do you think is the biggest concern for students, and how would you address this? Can I start with Dan, please?
Yeah, so I'm quite unique in the fact that I've always lived in university halls during my time at Surrey, so I do have less experience with finding accommodation off campus. I do think that, especially obviously last year because of COVID, there was a large rush to get houses sorted because of lockdown and other factors. But I do think, you know, we have a lot of students, we have more students coming in every year, and there is a limited number of accommodation available. And I do hope, again, I hope that all Surrey students continue to find a place to live. I think it's about advertising alternative letting sources. Obviously, we have private accommodation sources as well, which obviously, while are quite expensive, are somewhat guaranteed and a good fallback option. But I think we can definitely do more to push kind of meeting new students at the start of the year, forming groups, and then getting all the housing bookings, deposits sorted as soon as possible to ensure that our Surrey students are finding housing for next year.
Thank you. And Jo, please.
I would kind of agree with Dan. I think we need to give the support for students to find that correct accommodation, whether it be a Surrey accommodation or a house in town. I do feel like students do go through such a really hard process when it comes to finding housemates and finding people to live with and the whole accommodation situation. So what I would do is I would create a support system where people could ask for advice and or create maybe like some events where it would be like bonding experience for future housemates so that they can get to know their housemates a bit more and like address like problems when it first starts to make sure that you're not jumping into like a contract so soon and that you are definitely very, very sure and that you want to live with these people for like the next year. And additionally, making sure that the accommodation in Surrey is used up to its full capacity. So making sure that there's like no empty rooms, because there are people who have to live with like random people because they couldn't get the accom, and then they find out that there's like so many more empty rooms on campus, and then they would just be like, well, why couldn't I get this room? It's totally empty. So it's just making sure that one, they have this full support of the student union to find housemates and or making sure that accommodation is used up to the max.
Thank you. Margarita?
Yeah, I definitely think that price and quality are big issues for students. As a support zone PTO, I'm already working to build a website where students can rate their landlords, so they can rate the renting experience and say what went well and what didn't. In addition to this, I definitely think that Surrey's obviously very pricey, especially Guildford, but what we're doing is we keep building Band D, E and F accommodation, and also the private student accommodation that's being built in Guildford is very, very pricey. Granted, they do provide, well, some of them provide good living experience, some a bit less, for the same price. But I definitely think that lobbying the university to build more A, B, and C band accommodation is what we should do. So for every D, E, and F that is built, they should build a one A, B, and C, because students can't afford it. It's just too expensive.
Thank you.
And you shouldn't have to literally go broke to study at university. That's just not fair.
Matt, please.
So there's quite a few different things I want to say for this, but I think I'll go with two answers. The cost, obviously, is a big problem in Guildford, but unfortunately there's not a great deal that can be done about that. I mean, if you want to stay near campus and near the things you want to be near, it does unfortunately cost a lot, and I found that out the hard way this year. So, yeah, I'm certainly well aware of that being a problem. But as have been covered by the other candidates, I think there are definitely a lot of solutions, and I do agree on the point of building more accommodation owned by the university, because that's a much easier route to go down for students. You're not locked into a 12-month contract with a landlord you probably don't know. I mean, I was quite lucky with who I ended up with, but I know a lot of students have ended up with contracts with houses that they don't like, or landlords that don't help, don't fix things. So I think that area could definitely be addressed a lot, like making sure that students know what they're going into before they sign a contract, because there's a big push by landlords and letting agencies to just get you sorted and on there, attract you in, and then sort of just leave you. So covering that area, I think, is probably the biggest improvement the union could make, of letting students know who is like good to stay with, essentially, who is the right landlords, and I think it's a sort of like a reviewing system. But admittedly, I'd have to look into that a lot more. I know that it has been touched upon before in previous years, but realistically not that much has happened on it, so it's definitely an area that needs working on.
Okay, can I have nice, short, snappy answers to my next question, because we are nearly out of time. Right, so the union only has a limited amount of funding and manpower. If you had to, what one showcase event would you stop doing? Would it be varsity, colours, or union ball, One World Gala, Freshers Week, Winter Ball, Grab Ball, or End of Year show? There's quite a few there, sorry. Can we start with Margarita, please?
Yeah, although it was really, really successful, I do think I would probably get rid of Winter Ball. This is just because, I mean, it was honestly a great event, and well done to the people that did organize it, but I think it's probably the one that has the most overlap with other events. So I obviously wouldn't take Grad Ball from Graduate, because it's an amazing experience, but at the same time, Winter Ball has some features of a lot of other events. So then we can kind of keep the other ones and get rid of that.
Thank you. And Joe?
I would stop doing Freshers' Ball, because I do feel like when you do a Freshers' Ball and a Grad Ball, it does take away the importance of a Grad Ball, because you've just graduated, you've just done like 3 to 4 years of uni, and then you get to celebrate with this amazing event at the Marquee with all your friends, and like, you know, with the whole what is it, like an arcade, like carnival situation on the field, and it's such a great event. And when you do open it up to like everyone, especially like freshers, it does kind of take away like such a big importance of like overcoming such a big achievement. So yes, but yeah, I do love every single showcase event that the union does, because I do feel like it's very, very important to have a very quality and diverse events. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is in no way a slight to Joe, as the community zone also co-ran it, but I would get rid of winter ball as well. Again, I feel like it was a fantastic event, but again, I feel like the aspects covered were covered in other events throughout the year, such as the dance shows, where One World Gala utilised that. Ball, again, we have Freshers Ball, we have Grad Ball, we have Colours Ball. I think they come with extra weight because they're celebrating student achievement as well as having a great night. So I still think Winter Ball's amazing, but of the list, I would remove that.
Thank you. And Matt, please.
I'm really sorry to do this, but could you repeat which showcase events there are, because I don't want to get the answer wrong.
Yes, of course. So Varsity, Colours and Union Ball, One World Gala, Freshers Week, Winter Ball, Grad Ball and End of Year Show.
So I'll start by saying I think the events that have to stay the most are the ones that are open to everyone. I know that most of them are open to everyone, but some of them are more sort of exclusive than the others. And I think the events that are open to everyone are important to a lot of people, so getting rid of any of them is quite a difficult choice, but I think I'd have to go with either Freshers Ball or Winter Ball. I'm sorry, Nat, for saying that, because everyone loved it, and I was part of organising it partly. But I think one of those two going would have the least impact, because there's also a lot of other stuff going on around that. Sort of Freshers Ball is happening during Freshers Week, so it would be less missed, and the Winter Ball is also on at the same time as a lot of other events. So I wouldn't want to get rid of either of them, but I think one of those two would be the one I'd get rid of.
Thank you very much. All right then, time for the best question of the whole debate, obviously. Who would you like to be your union president? Can we start with Margarita, please?
Well, obviously my answer could still change at the debate. I don't want to say that I'm 100% sure. Having read both manifestos, I have to say that Diana probably has most points in common. All right, has most points in common with me, and I have worked with her this year in the union, so I'm going to have to say Diana.
Thank you. Joe?
I personally do love both manifestos, especially like Amir's point about connecting all three campuses. But I also do love Diana's manifestos, especially like the ones where like she does or promotes more to like union officers and gives more like power and representation of them. But if I were to have to choose one, I would say I'm leaning towards more of Diana, only because I feel like she does have such big experience in the union, and that she kind of knows it ins and outs, and I feel like that's really vital when it becomes presidency. And obviously question time can always change my mind, but I think they're both really strong candidates and it can go either way.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, both Amir and Diana are fantastic candidates, and I will be making my informed decision after question time on Tuesday. But based on her manifesto and her experience working within the zones, both voice support and activity, I'm leaning towards Diana at the moment.
And Matt, please.
I've got a very similar view to everyone else. They both look like amazing candidates, and I think either of them would be a brilliant union president. And I haven't made my full decision yet. I'm going to wait until question time. But I think at the moment I am slightly leaning towards Diana's manifesto, just because of her focus on the community, and having some similar aspects to my manifesto has just made me lean towards that. But it could go either way in my decision.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you so much for joining me up here. I know it can be very nerve-wracking, but thank you so much for such a fantastic debate.
Thank you
It
for
was a good one, right?
Thank you.
All right, then. So this was the last debate of tonight, but don't worry, because we are back tomorrow for the union chair and the activity zone. Thank you so much, everyone.
Hello guys and welcome back to Pundit's Corner. So we've just seen a fantastic debate with the Vice President candidates. So for those of you that aren't necessarily aware, but the VP community role covers a breadth of different things from nightclub, events in Rubik's, to also hosting grander events and balls and so forth. So one thing that the current VP community net has done this year, in collaboration with Joe of course, is introducing a winter ball. This is something that happened earlier on last year, which was well attended by students. In addition to that, our current VP community is also planning Univision, which will be a sensational event which is happening on the 20th of March in the University Hall with a variety of students from different universities such as Oxford and so forth. So definitely do make sure you come along to that event, as it will be one not to miss. In addition to that, our VP Communities also covers a wide range of things such as sustainability, which is something Nat leads on as well. But enough about Nathaniel, we know you're great, but let's get talking to the rest of them. So my first question to you is, how do you think COVID sort of impacted students? So I know from our perspective, it's been a thing whereby when COVID happened, there wasn't any nightclub, campus wasn't really buzzing. But now that nightclubs are open, I feel like there's more of a presence of students on campus. But obviously from a staff perspective, what do you think COVID impact had on students, and do you think it's improved or changed for the better?
Well, first of all, it's lovely to see our students back on campus now. It feels right with everyone slowly returning. I think from a staff perspective, I think it's a mixture. I think we still have students, even in the wider aspect of things, people in general, there's an anxiety still around returning to social spaces, to social events, but then there's some people who maybe don't mind, are indifferent, and then people that are genuinely quite worried and have anxiety or have had some terrible experiences in terms of COVID. So I think it's a mixture at the moment. From a financial perspective, as managing the money team, I think there is still an element of students worrying in terms of spending money to go back into, cinema, clubs, things like that. And I think that we need to be mindful of that as well, because some of the students are still trying to find another part-time job. Some students are still, studying at the same time as well. So that loss of income is still important for them. So I think a mixture, and I think eventually we will get there in terms of people feeling comfortable again.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying, because it's like the pandemic's happened. It felt like it's gone on for a very long time, and kind of readjusting back to normality. Because it's like, even when someone's talking to me, they come a bit close. So part of me is still like, don't come too close, personal space. But
even myself, just before that, I was wearing my mask, and then I took it off just for this. So it's getting that balance and working out how you feel. And also it's a completely new situation. We don't know how we feel because we've never been in this situation. So,
That's a bad point. I'm going to come to you. Obviously, because you work within WP, what do you think the university or we as students could also do to further ensure that those students from those backgrounds feel further integrated within the community?
I think part of it is, first of all, recognising that we have these students here. I think one of the things that we see sometimes is that it's very easy for us to say, okay, we know that some of our students are carers, but actually, what does that mean? And do our personal tutors, our senior personal tutors, our support services, do they really understand what impact being a carer has on a student or on a person generally? So I think one of the things that we are working to do and can continue working to do is really understanding our student body and recognising the differences that we all have as students, but particularly for students that are from widening participation backgrounds. So we can really, I suppose, recognise those differences, understand those differences, and advocate for those students where we need to, and amplify the voices of the minorities, because we have marginalised groups here and marginalised students that maybe feel that their voices aren't heard, and actually as members of staff in the student support services, in the students' union, how can we make sure that those learners feel heard, feel seen, and have exactly the same opportunity to access the experiences the university has? So think that's what we can do.
No, very informative, very good. I'll come to you. So one thing that most of them mentioned is like accommodation and previous things about students also feeling a part of the community.
Yes.
What do you think could be done to further integrate students into the community from the perspective of students that also live off campus?
Yeah, students come to Guildford from all over the country, well, all over the world to study in Guildford, and integrating as part of the community has always been a challenge. It's a challenge at every university because you tend to come here, focus on university, focus on studies, and then move back home potentially. And so it's about making the most of your time whilst you're in Guildford. I know I've worked personally on a project called Guildford in Bloom, which is a project that the student union's running this year. It's a gardening project. So a student garden, one of our gardens that we nominate, gets transformed into a student garden, and students can design the space. And it's things like that. That's a local award that's given out at the theatre. For anybody can enter, but by involving students and getting students to talk to local residents, neighbours, and then when neighbours walk down the road and say, oh, isn't that nice, and it just integrates the university a little bit more. So projects like that work really well, and I think you mentioned earlier about working with local schools, things like that is very good as well. Younger students in Guildford, younger people in Guildford that might not necessarily study at Surrey, but get those sort of role models from our students. I think that's really important.
Yeah, to touch on that, that's actually a really important point, because I know when I was previously Vice President Voice, one thing myself and my SAB team did was we went to King's College, the school, and we trained the younger kids about like leadership skills, and it was just really good to interact with younger students, because when you're in uni sometimes you're just very much in your own bubble, and just going there was actually a really great opportunity to just speak to them. Obviously to them they probably think we're much older, but it's like, trust me, we're not that much older. But it was just a good chance it was just a good chance for us to like talk to students in the community that we don't necessarily really get to see. And I think that was definitely one of the greatest experience when I was VP Voice.
I think, Holly, you organised school, your team organises the schools to come onto campus as well, because we've had some pupils in the Hive, which has been really nice as well. I think it's good to get the pupils in earlier as well, to see what we have here and what's available for them. Yeah.
And I think post-COVID as well, there's been such a kind of like learning loss that's happened across like education. Having role models that are students that are currently at university, talking to those young people, it makes such an impact, such a difference, particularly for students who maybe can't see themselves at university, or if I was to go into a school and I do look like a dinosaur for them, but like, compared to our University of Surrey student ambassadors going in and having those same conversations, they really look up to our students, and I think our students get so much from that as well, in terms of their own giving and the skills that they develop from it as well.
Yeah, agreed. So what do you think about staff, students integrating to community? Where do you think we're at this current point in time, and what do you think could be done to further enhance the community between staff and students?
I think we've created really helpful spaces now in terms of staff and student integration. So we've got the Hive, my Surrey Hive, that can be used for student appointments, and also social space. So there is that interaction between staff and students when they cross over in that space. Then we've got the Nest, which is a great space as well. And I know staff use that space also to have their lunch, and also students as well. And we've got the My Surrey Spark. So I think some staff will use that space not solely for meetings, but it is a student space, but I think staff are popping in there at the moment to see the space. So I think creating these spaces where staff and students can meet hopefully will encourage students to feel that they are part of the Surrey community, and also the staff members as well, because we want to try and support our students the best way possible, but the student also needs to feel comfortable coming to the staff members. So it's creating that environment where they do feel safe and also comfortable to speak to us. So I think these spaces help that. Is there more we can do? Probably, yeah. There is more that we can do. It's never perfect, is it? So I think that's something we are looking at in terms of within our teams to make sure we ensure that students feel welcome and that the space, so my Surrey Hive, the space I manage, is open for students and staff to feel comfortable there as well. So yeah.
Have you guys got any questions for me? Just out of curiosity, because I've been answering questions all night.
For AJ?
Feel free.
On the spot, yeah.
Well, I guess we've listened to a lot of manifestos and a lot of kind of points and then the questions and debates. So is there any points that particularly resonate with you or that you've kind of got really excited about? Or
Yeah, I think one thing that's been mentioned across the board, including some of the zonees and also VP, was more diversity in terms of rubrics, play music from different cultures and so forth, because everyone's so diverse, university's so diverse. When you go to the nightclub, you do also want to hear music that you understand or you can relate to. So I think that's definitely something that would be important, and it's little things like that that really do make a difference for students that you might not necessarily consider, but it does make a massive difference. So one thing I've done this year was, obviously October was Black History Month, so one thing I did was I did 2 nights in October that was like Afrobeats and bashment, and the other one was like hip hop and R&B, because they're predominant within the black culture. Black culture has nurtured these brands, these type of music. And then I'm planning to do another one again in March, so it's not just a thing where, oh, it's Black History Month, we've forgotten about that, but letting students know that whether it's Black History Month, LGBT month, whatever the month is, we still want to carry on what we're doing. So by having alternative nights in rubrics, that's definitely something that I think would make a difference to loads of students, because some students typically don't always go to rubrics because they're like, that's not the kind of music that I listen to. But when I have done those nights this year, other students did come to rubrics and say they really enjoyed it and so forth.
Yeah.
Does anyone have one final question or anything for me? If not, it's fine, don't worry.
what's your most proudest thing being president so far that you've done?
This year, I think my proudest thing this year in terms of achievement has to be scrapping graduation ceremony fees, because that was one thing I mandated for when I ran for the position, because obviously not everyone necessarily has the money, but they still want to attend their graduation, and making graduation ceremony free for students is definitely something that could make the experience a lot better. Student pay tuition fees already, just having one thing for free would definitely make their experience a lot better. But aside from that, I think one thing I've really loved about being president has been my SAB team, because they all have their own strengths, they all have their own personalities. And generally, I'm so grateful for the team that I have, because they're so dynamic. We have different skills that bounce off each other, and it just makes our team really strong, and I'm definitely very appreciative of them. But on that soppy note, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Question Time tonight. Hopefully the debates have been very informative, but that concludes the end of this Pundits Corner, but I'll be back here again tomorrow and the day after. So do carry on watching Pundits Corner, and I hope you had a good night.